Hello again, welcome back. I hope you had an amazing break. I hope you got any snacks you needed or drinks, and I hope you are stretched and ready because I got more content for you. And in case you want to share this content, remember the ProtoPlay hashtag on any social media. And if you would like to reach any of these links without having to type on your keyboard or phone, you should be able to scroll down on our channel and click a desired panel, and it's gonna take you wherever you want to go. With that in mind, let's get on with our next team and our next game, which is made by Celtic Dragon Studio. Let's go. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi
Good
there.
afternoon. How are you doing?
Great afternoon. I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I've got the sun shining in my face, so we're off to a good start already.
Very nice. Catching some vitamin D is good for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so a bit about yourself and your team, and just two sentences about your game.
Sure. Okay. So I'm Kieran. I am the character artist for Celtic Dragon Studio and also the resident bread maker. Azzy is a 3D action platformer. Azzy Battles of Darkness, sorry, is a 3D action platformer where you're placed in a world that is rich with elemental energies, and you jump into action as a character named Azzy, funnily enough, who is a plucky young feline who goes on a quest to find his father, who incidentally vanishes just as an ancient darkness begins to awaken. Ooh.
Interesting. We're getting some more teasers right there.
And our team is our mission with Celtic Dragon Studio with Azzy is to make a game that pulls on the vibes of classic PS2 era action platformers such as Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank. They're our main inspirations that we're putting into Azzy, with a little bit of Zelda here and there, but not so much as the previous, not as much as the other two.
I was just gonna talk to you about the inspiration. I'm glad you went that route as well. That's exactly what I, to be honest, was thinking of when I was checking out your gameplay. I was actually getting those vibes when I was younger of playing on the old consoles and having these just, the classic platformer. You are collecting things and platforming your way to victory, right? And I actually got that vibe straight away, so good job with that. Yeah,
that's really good. That's one of the things that we're trying to achieve from the outset, and some of the feedback on social media, especially on our Twitter, has been very much, "Oh, this gives me X and Y vibes," and we're like, "Yes."
Yeah, job well done.
That was the point.
Well, with all the games people compare this to, if you could expand on your inspiration, what you really took from, could be anything, not just games, what you really took from to create what we are seeing today. So not just the gameplay-wise, but even character-wise.
Sure. So gameplay. We'll start with gameplay first. Gameplay-wise, it's very much similar to Ratchet 1 and Jak and Daxter. Not the 2016 re-release of Ratchet and Clank. No, it's the original premise of Azzy was to take those inspirations from that particular era of time, because this isn't the only iteration of Azzy. Azzy is quite old in terms of a concept.
Okay.
It goes back. Our team leader and programmer, Azzy Battles of Darkness, is his baby, and he started it way back when. And he got us together to work on it, but that'll be discussed about later. It turns for more story inspiration, we're kind of taking things from, in terms of world building, we're inspiring it from Aristotle's theory of the elements. So you got earth, air, wind, fire. It's earth, air, fire, and water. Sorry, and ether as well is his particular take on the elements. And what we've done, we've taken those four, but we've also added darkness as well. Ooh. So you got the four fundamental elements
plus the villain,
and you it's in the name.
Yeah.
So you got the four fundamental elements, and you got ether, or in Azzy's case is spirit, and which is life and everything that encompasses, and or spirit is everythingness. and darkness is nothingness. So it's
see.
the polar opposites of that, and there was originally a balance of these particular elements, but in eons ago, into Azzy's background lore, there was a previous civilization who essentially played God with the elements. They were trying to make their own thing, and that caused a huge cataclysm that essentially just scrubbed them off the face of the world, and that's why darkness is much more prevalent, because all the elements are out of balance now, and because they're out of balance, darkness is able to fly free and do its own thing.
I see.
So that is Azzy's one of Azzy's objectives throughout his journey. His main objective is to just find his poor dad who went missing just as that darkness was starting to making itself known, because it's been bubbling underneath the surface since.
I have a feeling Azzy will have to take part in saving the world while trying to just find the dad.
Yeah, but that's the secondary objective, right? that's the B plot.
Yeah.
The A plot is finding the dad.
Yes, of course. Let's get the priorities right?
Yeah, and one more inspiration kind of comes from, particularly for the characters, comes from real life animals. So Azzy is named after our team leader's lake cat called Azriel. I think it's lake cat. There's been many Azriels.
Wow. I see.
So I think this Azzy is inspired by Azriel II. I'm not quite sure, but there is a link. There is a link between where the characters come from.
I see.
To real life animals.
Speaking of where things come from in terms of your game, I'm really, I wouldn't say overwhelmed, but just generally impressed about the backstory of the lore of your game. It really adds a lot of value to the gameplay, because when you see it at first, you have, there's some cat humanoid running around collecting some gems, it seems, about which we can talk about in a second. And and you're getting that vibe of a very old school platformer, and just very good vibe, of course.
Yeah.
And, but there is so much behind it, which I didn't actually expect to hear, to be honest.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why we're going more with PS2 era platformers, because they tend to be a bit more serious, whilst not to discredit any other platformers, but the tone is different, you know.
Absolutely.
It's like Ratchet and Clank is much different than Mario, but they share the same genre. So between Mario and Ratchet, we're going more towards Ratchet, which is a bit more serious and has more story elements behind it. And it's these story elements that will influence the gameplay, and the gameplay will also influence the story elements as well. That was one of the things we wanted to do, that we outlined near the start, which was the gameplay will influence the narrative will influence the gameplay. So the two are married together in a very symbiotic relationship.
I see. Okay. What about the level design that we are seeing on screen? Is this one of the starting areas, or are we further into the game in the demo we got?
Oh no, this is the starting area for this iteration of the demo. Mikolai, our one of our environment artists, has done a fantastic job in realizing the visuals around it, and he was putting all these different assets together based on our designer Rob's level layout, which he did by blocking out first in a separate scene in Unreal. So to make sure that the mechanics are working right in absence of any kind of visuals, because ultimately that's what we kind of want to do, is make the game fun in absence of anything. A bit like how with Yooka-Laylee, they had the main game, but they also had the sandbox element to it. Well, not the playground, I think it was, where it's just a block out area with a character, full mechanics, on you go, have fun. So that was the objective of planning out the block out, Rob's block out as he was doing that, and we learned a few things along the way. And turns out Unreal is not quite friendly for level design from what he tells us. But yeah, it was after the blockout was finished, it was then getting the environment put together, and Mikolai was a machine putting it all together. It's absurd the amount of effort that he's done into it.
That's
but
big shout out.
Thankfully, yeah, thankfully we had a lot to work with anyway, because Finton, our team leader and programmer, when he was working on this on his own, he did a lot of the things by himself. So we still had art to draw from. Like, we were going to do our own art anyway, but we still had something to draw from at the start. So it wasn't just a completely blank canvas. We still had something to work with.
I see. That's cool. That's a lot of content you gave me. Thank you so much for all the insights right there. Now let's talk about those gems and sort of the scoring system and the progression, right?
Sure.
How does that work?
So the currency crystals that Az is collecting at the moment is kind of like the bolts in Ratchet and Clank, where you just go around, smash things, and collect these nuts and bolts. They're going to act as the currency for upgrading your abilities and unlocking more abilities. And there isn't a shop element yet, but in fact, there's not even a shop element at all. We haven't really fully fleshed that out yet. But the currency crystals are going to be what you can use to purchase additional things, and the dark crystals are what you unlock. Are what you use to unlock additional elemental abilities. A bit like how stars function in the Mario games, where you find a secret area or you beat a big boss. You get a star at the end, and that progresses you further. For doing so, the dark crystals serve a similar function.
I see. Cool. Awesome. Now you mentioned the upgrades for abilities, right? And of course, we've got different elements in the game. And I was a witness of having Azzy just blow cold on the water and create a platform.
Yeah.
Could you expand on that? Because I think that's a really exciting part of the game. Is there more elements that player can use?
There is going to be. Our next objective, which we can talk about later, is to expand on those elements. But at the moment, it's just fire and ice, and there's going to be different elemental abilities. So there's going to be like fire whip, ice freeze, ice platform, gale push, and whatnot. There's some names they can go by. For the ice platforms in particular, that nearly didn't happen because we're fussing around trying to get the thing to work, and eventually we found out, we can actually put in the ice platforms, because other than that, it's just fire, and it's not really showing off what we want to do with this experience, which is to use these different elemental powers, and so we managed to cram that in.
And you get that contrast of the fire and ice as well, which is great.
Yeah.
Show it off, yeah.
The original purpose of the ice platforms was just to make a block in front of you, and then you'd hop. But through player experience, through working with different players, our facilitator for Transfuser, I think he discovered it, and then when the team was like, "Oh, we didn't anticipate that," where he held down the freeze button and walked slowly. And that created a path for him to walk over. And for me, as I was watching this happen in real time, thinking, oh, that's smart. I didn't think of that.
I mean, that seems to have greatly influenced your development then. Was there anything else like that from Transfuser that changed your game design dramatically?
It's more. There's been a few things. Not so much. Design in a way, because the thing about platformers is that it's kind of subjective.
Sorry, just to clarify, anything about your game really, not just design-wise, you know.
Oh, right, sure. Yeah. All right, so yeah, it's so getting the platformer to feel right is kind of difficult because everyone does it differently. But getting the affordance to work correctly. So those in chat who don't know, affordance essentially in a platformer example is if you're going to make a jump, but you press the button just a little too late. Affordance is, say for example, an invisible plate underneath your feet that hovers over the edge that you can still jump off of.
I see.
Before you actually just drop. So it's also known as coyote time. So if you remember the Wildy Coyote from
the cartoon,
Days Gone Past, it's the similar principle to that. And so getting stuff like that to work is something that will be tweaked and refined as time goes on. But another thing that our community managed to find was just how easy it was to get out of bounds at first, because it was similar to the previous team you were interviewing, where you don't really notice these things until you see someone else with fresh eyes do it.
Yeah,
and it was, funnily enough. it was fun. Yes, I see you there, Greg. It was funnily enough. Greg, who was like, "Oh, I'm going to immediately jump out the world," and he did that. We watched. He screen shared it in the Transfuser Discord server, and we watched this happen in real time. And I could feel poor Rob. I couldn't see him, but I could just feel him just going, "Oh no, no!"
Yeah.
So spent a while trying to get that right, trying to make sure it's unboundable. And that worked out well because we haven't had any instances of people being able to escape the world yet. To the point, to the Lambda Fish. That's Rob right there with a crying face, just being like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
We had our second environmental artist, Samantha. She was going, right, okay, I'm going to break the game. I'm going to go ahead and try and jump out the bounds, and she did that, and she found multiple still that we hadn't figured out.
Yeah, it is like that. In 3D games, it's I think especially difficult to cover every area up. Just a bit of a story. I had actually a friend of mine doing some QA testing at university for a team, and he went into one area, and if you turn left in there, it was like a flying game. If you were to turn left, you ended up just flying any distance you want, and he even discovered some level that was just for testing things, right? So they fixed it. They gave him the game to test again, right? So next time he went there, he was like, "Okay, I go left, it doesn't work." He went right, and the gap was still there on the right side. So, so yeah, these things really happen. Just some story for you guys. Yeah, these things really happen. So it's fully understandable.
Yeah.
But so was that feedback? Was most of it from the community of Transfuser? Or was there a lot of player feedback as well?
There was a lot of player feedback and feedback from Transfuser too. We managed to get in early in creating our own community Discord. There was a community Discord there already, but with Transfuser happening, we then revamped it. Eventually, give it a new face, a new makeover, and once that was up and running, we really pushed it on social media. So like on Twitter, making sure that people join in and be part of this little community. And what's one thing that's made that a lot easier is knowing people already in the 3D platformer sphere. So for example, Clive and Wrench, Billy Bust Up, Project Longtail, those types of indie platformer games we were allowed to push our stuff onto there as well, and from their communities we managed to pull a few people here and there into our own, and they've been the Billy Bust Up crew in particular have been very helpful in supporting us and giving them some feedback and helping us out. And some of the community members come through.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And some of their community members have come through to ours as well, and a couple of people have mentioned, it's like, "Oh, Azzy BBU crossover," and is the art style? One person said that the art style is quite similar. Was that on purpose? I was like, no, but Oh God, I can see why you think that.
No, but I see it.
I see it now. Oh crud.
No, I mean, I as a player, for example, I absolutely welcome both games. I actually had a chance to speak to some people from Billy Bustap back when the Jump user was when we were doing a live stream of that. I actually had the opportunity to chat to them and give the game a go. And I see how you could see the difference certainly, but I think it's just I think it's just how it is with this sort of games. It's almost like a genre of its own by this point, I feel.
Yeah, and as well as that, people have been coming in from as well as the people coming in from other platformer communities. It's just general feedback on Twitter and mostly on Discord too. We created a feedback channel specifically on our community Discord once we published our demo, and we had people coming in, half from the community, half from the Transfuser crew, coming and giving us feedback, and some of the things that came through, it's like there's things that you just don't consider, or you think is too obvious that you don't consider it. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's that, but then you realize, oh wait, no, it's not.
Yeah, I think what's great.
It's not that at all.
Yeah, I think what's great and unique about being able to get the feedback from many different players is that everyone plays the games their own way, right? So that's the best way for you to discover things that to you seemed very apparent and sort of that they were working fine, but then you get a behavior from some player which you just didn't expect, you know? So yeah, that's
Yeah, absolutely. The platformer community is a very opening and welcoming one, and we've been very fortunate to have been welcomed in that community.
Yeah, certainly. I feel like this sort of platformer games, like I spoke at the very start, it almost like touches your soul, you know, because it's a game from back in the day when the consoles had these sort of platformers out on them. It really gets to you on like a personal level, and I feel like that's a very good point for giving exposure to your game as well. Is that you are creating this game with passion for players who perhaps want to get that experience once again, almost like a nostalgic feeling, right?
Yeah, the nostalgia is something we do want to pull from, and it's so our target audience.
Perfect, thank you.
Is
Go on.
is our people. Segue. is our way of. So our target audience is very much people who have grown up in the wake of platformers, who grew up with and grew up after, and so it's quite broad, and essentially, and because the 3D platformer genre is having a resurgence and has been for the past few years.
Yeah.
So A Hat in Time is a huge example of what an indie developer can do. And there's also the remakes of classics gone by, so like the Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and Ratchet and Clank. So this resurgence is making an impact on this particular genre, especially when people get older and getting into game development of their own, and they're wanting to create something that was inspired by the games they played in their youth. Yeah,
certainly. Nostalgia is just a very powerful feeling for people to pick up these sort of games. What I find interesting about what you're saying is that with some of these games that we've been seeing from teams, I feel like there are two approaches to targeting the audience. One could be through the genre, and anyone who really likes the genre, right? You hope for them to play the game. And then we had some which were targeting very specific groups of people that they know through statistics. You would expect them to enjoy the game, which I find personally quite interesting. So really appreciate this sort of insights.
Yeah, we've had a few workshops on identifying market and demographics, and especially on Steam. The unfortunate thing is because there are so many smaller 3D platformer projects and products, that the scale is very much sided to one way as opposed to the other. So you got the lower end of you got the lower priced and you got the higher priced spectrum, and it's very much tilted more towards the lower end because of people just throwing out very quick experiences at a small price. And the other thing about the demographics is, as well as people who just grew up with that kind of nostalgia, we're also wanting to capture the people who have not kind of played these experiences before, but have experienced modern gaming in the way that was just not possible 20 odd years ago when 3D platformers were back in their heyday. And so they've got this insight and experience and secondhand nature that just wasn't around, or wasn't real. In my experience, anyway, it wasn't really around by that point. So, with developing Azzy, it's very much a marriage of utilizing modern gameplay design principles and mechanics, and today's premises and principles, and then applying them to a nostalgic experience. So instead of making a carbon copy from things 20 odd years ago, it's something inspired by that in a modern context.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant to see. That's really amazing to see. I personally actually am really buying into this this resurfacing of these platformer games, because haven't had a chance to play many of those in my younger years, but it's something that I'm actually finding really fun and enjoyable to go through, and that's coming from a person who plays mostly multiplayer games, which I find actually interesting. How these games actually still, I feel incentive to try them out and go through the story. Which, well, job well done to you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I asked you. Is there anything you would look to change in the game? Let's say you've got 2 more weeks, a week to work on the game. What's the first thing that you look into?
Oh god, so we won't go with just a week, because no way we can change what we want to change at that point. But our next iteration, so post Transfuser, is going to be iterating on the demo, working on the combat, and refining the player controller some more, expanding the available abilities, so that it truly reflects the vertical slice that we're wanting to put forward to potential publishing deals and whatnot. So that's going to be our mission from here on out, is just getting the combat done, refining the combat, refining the abilities, and going forward from there. That's as far as we've planned. There's going to do a lot more, obviously, because we want to actually see this through to the end. But if we were given just 3 more weeks, we would very much work on the combat and the elements, and but refine the player experience and the character controller a lot more.
I see, awesome. I was going to ask you a question from the chat, but your team is right on point with answering. Yeah, they got your back. Just maybe a few words about the combat before we start finishing off. How's the combat in the game? Because I don't think there is much of it in the demo we are seeing.
It's there in spirit, shall we say?
Okay.
It's so the goats that attack you, they are killable. You can punch them. The combat right now is very basic. I really wanted for the goats to be set on fire, but that was lower on the priority list of things to actually get done. So ultimately, that wasn't implemented. But the combat in terms of the current demo it's very basic. We very much prioritize the experience to be getting the platforming right, which
Absolutely.
from what we've received feedback on, people are actually enjoying. So that was a good call to do that.
Yeah, I think
fire is always the first priority. Thank you, Greg.
The fire. I mean, yeah, I think you even mentioned that you started with fire as the first element, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it grew out to include the ice.
I see. Yeah. Wonderful. So, what should we be anticipating from your team, or perhaps when? Because you kind of touched on what we should be anticipating.
Well, so yeah, as I said, we're going to be working on a second demo, which is going to be an iteration of this one, which expands on the refining the player experience, such as combat and the abilities as well. And we'll be working. That will be our main focus to work on that, getting that right, and making it more of a complete experience. It's a complete experience now, but we want to really push it so that when we do get to presenting it to third-party funders, be it UK Games Fund or UK Games Fund or any other publisher, we can say, here's our vertical slice, here's our current iteration. Just go, have fun, and let the game speak for itself, and they'll go back to us. That's great. Here's 400k. Great, thank you.
The ideal world, right?
Yeah, and aside from that, we'll be doing other things like building our community some more, and start doing dev logs, publishing them on our itch.io page, making that kind of thing more accessible to our budding and fledgling community. We'll explore maybe self-funding, such as crowdfunding and whatnot. And I had a last thing there, but it's completely left my mind. But yeah, it's we've still got a lot of work to do. But we've already outlined on a high level, not really specifics, but in terms of a high level, we know what we're going to be doing next.
Okay, sounds good.
Working on a second iteration of the demo and building the community more, and maybe doing some streams as well of behind the scenes in development progress. So like
they do
doing
help.
arts.
Yeah, they do help with the exposure, certainly. I'll tune in.
They do, yeah.
I'll tune in. I'll make sure to. Yeah, I need to. After once the ProtoPlay is over, I need to make sure to keep up with all the teams and see what they're up to. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the interview. We're gonna be finishing it out.
Thank you for your time. Honestly, it's been great here.
Yeah, really
and thank you for everyone else, and thank you for everyone in chat who's been asking questions and been answered to. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to really keep an eye on chat because being interviewed and looking at chat is two different brain functions that I can't really do that right now. But yeah, I'm glad everyone seems to be having a good time. So I'm glad you've all enjoyed our little time in the spotlight.
Definitely. Well, I certainly enjoyed getting some insights from your development, and I'm really looking forward to this game, and I'm hoping to hear about it in the foreseeable future. Right, once again, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, I wish you all the best with your project, really.
Thank you. And before we close, I just want to say you can people in chat, they can follow us on Twitter at AziDarkness. We have an itch.io page. Just search Azzy Battles the Darkness. Sorry, that's where our demo is. If you want to give it a try, feel free to go there. We're on the ProtoPlay website, protoplay.co.uk. Search for Celtic Dragon Studio. And if you feel we deserve to be voted the Audience Awards, 100% all power to you. Go for it. And we also have our Discord community, which is discord.gg/TMF capital G capital U lowercase m lowercase b. I've just posted those links in the chat.
They are not going to work. We got moderation going on. So make sure to go to the Azzy Darkness Twitter account. And I suppose you will have all the handles, all the links for that in there.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
He says, very hastily, looking forward to double check.
If anything, you can just quickly post them right there. So, and guys, yeah, if you would like to, as mentioned by Kieran, if you want to access the website quickly, scroll down, click on one of the panel buttons to the ProtoPlay website, And if you enjoy what you are seeing on the screen, then take your vote and vote for the game, of course.
Thank you very much, guys.
Right, thank you so much. Looking forward to hearing about the game in the future. Take care. Okay, guys, and we're gonna wrap up with Azzy Darkness right here. Go on a short break, and we're gonna be right back in about 5-10 minutes with the next team, which is Monkey Hat Games. Exciting. Take care. We'll hear you soon. Speak to you soon.